everyone, welcome to week 2 of the spooky season Sew Along. If you're just joining in week 1 we went through and sorted out all of our fabric into little bags like this so that we can really just dive in and focus on sewing going forward. So now, of course, I have my week 2 bag and it is the cat blocks, and so that's what we're going to make. Let's go ahead and open this up and see what we have in here. So we have some of our 10-inch squares, and these are going to make our cats. There's just 3 of them, sorry. So you can see the 3 different prints, and these are actually fabrics A, B, and C, and so that makes it really easy. You can always reference your fabric key if you need to double check that if you haven't sorted it already. You're also going to need the matching tails from your pre-cut pre-fuse applique, and so you can see these coordinate with the fabrics that we're going to use to make our cats. And then there's also this really cute little bat that is this spider web print. And we're also going to need some background pieces, and so I have a 4-inch strip and a 5-inch strip. And so once you have all of that ready to go, we can dive in and start making our cats. So I'm going to start by using this cute little pumpkin fabric, and this is the cat that we're going to make to begin. So I'm going to bring it over here, and with all of our 10-inch squares, we're going to cut these the exact same way. So I've got my 5 by 15-inch ruler here, and I'm going to begin by laying this on one edge, and I'm just going to cut a 5-inch strip. So essentially I'm cutting my 10-inch square in half. There we go. And from 1/2, I'm going to trim it down to 5 by 9.5. So I'm just going to take off a 1/2 inch. There we go. This is going to be like the body of our cat, so I'll set that aside. And then next I need a 5 by 3-inch piece, so I'm going to use that other half. Remember, it's already 5 inches wide, so I can just measure down 3 inches and make a cut. And then I need 2 2.5-inch squares, so I'm just going to cut a 2.5-inch strip by 5 inches, and then I'm going to cut this in half so that I have 2 2.5-inch squares. There we go. And that is all the pieces that we need to make the cat. So this little bit is extra. If you have a little mistake, you have a little bit left over to correct that. So then now, let's go ahead and cut out our background as well. So from my 5-inch strip, I'm going to start by cutting a 5-inch square. So I'm just going to line this up on my mat. And we're going to cut a 5-inch square first. Make a cut there. If I had turned this around, I could just use the edge of my ruler, but this works. So a 5-inch square and then a 5 by 2.5-inch strip. So I'm going to come over 2.5 inches. And I'm just making one of these cuts because we're just making one block, but you would actually cut 3 of each of these since we're making 3 cat blocks total. So then we're going to cut another 2.5-inch strip, and I'm going to subcut this one down into 2.5-inch squares. I really only need one of these, but then I can use the other. All right, and we're just going to use one of these. We can set the other one aside to use with one of our others. And so this is what we need for most of our blocks, but remember we have that 4-inch strip as well. So to finish this off, we need to cut a 4 by 9.5-inch rectangle. And so if you wanted to just cut 3 of these, you absolutely could, so that you have all of your blocks ready to go. So I'm going to straighten up that end, and then we're going to measure over 9.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. Ta-da! And that is all of our pieces to make this first cat. So let's begin by taking our 2.5 by 5 inch background piece and our 2.5 inch squares. And we're going to begin by making the ears of our cat. So there's a couple ways you could do this. You could draw a line corner to corner on the wrong side of your fabric. You could press a line, but I'm just going to use my diagonal seam tape. So I'm going to lay this right along the edge so it lines up right with my fabric, and I'm going to sew corner to corner. There we go. Now we can go ahead. I like to kind of press it back just to get a good look at it first, make sure it's going to stay nice and square. That looks really nice. So now that I know that that looks the way I want, I can trim off my excess and just leave a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Let me move some of this out of the way for you so you can really see what I'm doing. I'm just going to leave my seam allowance here. There we go. Now that'll roll back, and we're going to add the other side. Now these don't overlap, and that is intentional. We want a little bit of space between our cat's ears. That's what we're making right here. So again, point to point. Go ahead and press that back. And then trim off the seam allowance. The reason that I press it first is just in case it gets a little wonky. I can always go back, take that seam out, and do it again if I feel like I need to. So that is done. Let me trim up these threads. And then I can sew it to my 3 by 5 inch piece. And this is my little kitty's face. So we'll sew those two together. Just make sure they're staying lined up and straight down with a 1/4 inch seam. There we go. Now I'll press that down. All right. So from here, we are going to take our 5 inch background square. We're going to sew it to the side of this block. Just like so. Press. There we go. Now we're going to work on the bottom body of our little kitty. And so this is our large 5 by 9.5 inch rectangle, and we have a single 2.5 inch background square, and we are going to snowball one corner to make its little bum, to kind of add the curve that you see there. And so you'll notice all of our cats are made the exact same way, and so we're snowballing this right hand top corner. All the little kitties are facing the same direction. There we go. And just like we did on the ears, I can go ahead and roll this back and just make sure that my block is staying nice and square, which it is. It looks great. Now same thing, we'll trim off that excess fabric. So we just have our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Just like so. Roll that back, and now we can sew these two pieces together. There we go. We'll just line them up and sail right down. Then we can press it. And if you've made any of our cat blocks, this is exactly the same. The magic now comes after that because I decided to add some pre-cut, pre-fuse applique tails. And so you remember we have this piece that measures 4 by 9.5, and this is going to end up sewing on right on this side, but first we need to add our applique because we want this to be set in the seam. So if you're not familiar with the Precut Prefuse, it comes like this. It's already cut apart in your package, and on the back is a paper that we can peel off, and that's going to leave the adhesive on our fabric piece. And so now we can just line this up and decide where we want our tail to go. And we just want it to line up with the edge of our fabric so that it will be caught in our seam. And so I think that looks great. You could put a pin in this, or you could line it up right here on your mat to double check. Then we're just going to press this down with a nice hot iron. Just like so. Oops, my little corner wanted to turn up. Danger, danger. You don't want that adhesive to stick to your iron. So you really should lift and press. There we go. Looks great. So before I sew these together, I do want to point out I've made a few of the other cats, and I kept this one apart because I want to show you how I finished off the edge of the applique. And so I just did a blanket stitch, and I used black thread on this one so that you guys could see it really well, but I would probably use gray. There's a lot of gray on this quilt that you're going to finish in the same way, so you could just change it up to match. But it works great. This cute little blanket stitch, you could do a tiny zigzag, you could even just do a straight stitch, but you do want to do some type of stitching along that edge to secure it down. And so I'm going to wait and do that to this one before I sew these together. But now we can go ahead and sew this together to finish up our block. So let's do that. Just like so. Now we can give that a press. And then we have this cute little kitty block that is all done, and you will make 3 of these. I do want to point out on this particular cat that you see here, let me find my piece. This is the one that we're going to add that little bat that we set aside at the beginning too. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and I'll go back and add the same blanket stitch around this that I did on the tail. But this is so fun because you get to decide which way the bat is flying and exactly how you want it to set on here. But if I'm going to make this match the quilt, on the quilt it's flying just a little bit higher, so I'll probably move him up there, and then we'll just press him down. And this is the only cat block that gets this bat added to it. There you go, just like so. And then we have these other blocks that will finish up 1, 2, 3 to finish out week 2, and I will see you back here for week 3. Hey everyone, it's Misty. Thanks for watching at home. If you aren't already a part of our Missouri Star family, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want a notification every time we release a new video. I'll see you next Monday on the newest episode of At Home.